As a disclaimer, I wish I was more prepared and didn't have to be so reedy. But you'll see after that I really needed to have something to anchor to. So it's very deep and lovely, and I hope that you that the reading part doesn't get so old. My name is Liz Maugans, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to dance at the conclusion of this talk, and I hope you'll join me. So think, what's the worst year of your life? If you have trouble blurting it out, you didn't have it yet. I've had many good years in my career as an artist and an educator. I've had many especially great years as a mother and a daughter, a spouse and a partner, a friend and a confidant. But some of those years were difficult, particularly this one. Now, before I tell you more, I want to let you know that I've had a successful career as an artist and co-founder of Zygote Press, an artist-run printmaking cooperative located in Cleveland. For more than 20 years, Zygote serviced the needs of artists interested in producing art by providing access to printmaking, equipment, and technologies, promoting their work to Northeast Ohio, providing residencies to local artists so they can go and experience new communities, and also bringing different artists from around the globe here so they can experience ours. Zygote Press has been a passion project born from a desire to serve and strengthen our creative community. Late last year, after an intense period of soul searching, I decided to step down as director of Zygote to make way for a new, fresh generation of younger artists to carry forth the agenda and mission. I set my sights on a new horizon of possibilities for myself, including a renewed commitment to community service, a growing interest to spend more time in the studio making art, and political activism to support a growing creative population in need of decent wages, workspace, and advocacy. I'm very proud of the work I did at Zygote, and I believe strongly that the new directors will carry forth its mission and purpose. Everyone experiences tough times in their life, from the death of a loved one to losing your job or getting divorced. We find ways to pass through these difficult times with the love of family and friends and a true belief that things will eventually get better. Shortly after my transition from Zygote, my life went from a celebration of past successes to an uncertain future. In the midst of a new opportunity to direct an exciting artist gallery project at Worthington Yards, an upscale residence in the warehouse district, where artworks can be found on every floor, in every nook and cranny, where weekly programs promote and celebrate our great creative community, I was riding high with excitement and unlimited possibilities, where I can merge my interests and with other community movers and shakers. I met with architects and city planners, developers, art collectors, artists, and residents who live there. I had an adrenaline rush at those meetings and at that conversation, in those conversations. I also drank too much one night and was pulled over by Lakewood police, handcuffed, and charged with DUI. My husband had to post bond and come for me at the police station. My car was impounded. I pleaded guilty and sentenced to 24 hours of community service, weekly intervention classes, suspension of my driver's license, and a 1-year probation. I was embarrassed and ashamed. By far, the most difficult part of the experience was telling my kids. And I felt as though I let them down, and 6 months later, that feeling is still painful. Less than a month later, a longtime friend died from cancer. His name was Wheels. I was driven out to meet him, and I was thinking about, like, what would I want to have happen in a similar situation? And for some reason, I was like, I want to just massage his hands. So I stopped at a Walgreens, and I'm in the lotion section, and I'm fretting over what fragrance I was going to get him. And I selected Ocean Mist. So I went to his room at his home. He was conscious, but he loved reggae, and he had Pandora streaming. And I held his hand and I danced with him after massaging the ocean mist on him to Bob Marley's One Love. His absence swept through me like a thunderstorm. 3 weeks later, following years of medical issues from drug overdoses to self-inflicted abuse, my brother Teddy died. He was 61 years old, a father and a husband, a son and a brother, and a member of the Lakewood community, and a loving and complex human being. This one was pretty devastating to our family, and particularly my mom. Within the months, my aunt passed away, my uncle, 3 other longtime friends, including my co-founder, Joe Sroka. I was in a constant state of mourning, unable to drive because my driving privileges were suspended. I relied on my children to drive me to wakes and funerals, as well as the occasional Uber and all of my close friends, many who are here today. My brother's death hit my mother especially hard. She had been living with us for the past several years. The sadness and grief weighed heavy on her, and after a fall and broken pelvis, we were forced to find an assisted living situation for her. She's since been in nursing care for early dementia, and several small accidents, including a broken shoulder, have constantly kept her in nursing care. She wants to come home to us, but realistically, I can't give her the medical care that she needs. Pretty uplifting so far, I know. I was born a twin. My sister Jennifer lives in Seattle and is with me every day of my life. Twins are like that. We have a special bond. We constituted an immediate, instant community. From the feeling of belonging, I grew my sense of community to include my other siblings, family, friends, artists, and community leaders. Ironically, it was the day after that my twin, who was visiting at the time, and other friends helped me get my car from the impound lot, pay fines, other friends helping me with urine tests for my new job, and people driving me around town. I want to thank you all. Through community service in youth group, church, candy striping, Girl Scouts, student council, these were all ingrained in me and my sister at an early age. But they still deemed obligations, things that we had to do. I was interested in art at an early age. When faced with a challenge or a hardship, difficulty or a mess, art made the world felt. And this feeling spurred thinking, engagement, and eventually action. Making art, often considered a singular studio focus, was more about sharing space and resources for me. I had the simplest of desires to connect with others as an artist. Prior to turning 50 years old last year, my primary focus in making art was connecting artists to the community and vice versa, empowering people to believe that for all the community I was posturing, let's see here, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. That the community had something interesting and important to contribute to the conversation, and creating opportunities for the young people to engage in expression in a positive, healing way. At Zygote, we faced the challenges of funding head-on. We raised money to support our education programs, and in the process, educated our politicians and business leaders on the importance of art in building a proactive community. Culture, for me, is our most important asset. We have to continue to find ways to support artists and writers and dancers and actors and musicians, poets in the pursuit of expressing the desires and ideologies of those troubling times that we live in, and more importantly, pass along to our youth the inspiration to dream a better world. Art has that kind of power. At 51, my body has changed. I'm aging. I don't have as much energy as I did when I was 21. We will live 33 years longer on average than our grandparents did. Just think of that. Middle years are long, and with them we experience these transitional times as loss and half empty. Being honest with myself at this particular time in my life is a hard pill to swallow, but it's important and more real than ever. My relationships are shifting in directions that I couldn't have imagined before. I'm overwhelmed with loss and sorrow this year. And despite a deluge of change and challenges, I found comfort in the least likely places, the DUI community. DUI, many people that know me know that I love acronyms. Thank you. So for this one, I came up with deepened, unsuspecting interventions. So from here on out, DUI means that. The DUI community found me. Strangers welcomed me in the world. I heard their truth, I listened to their hardships, and I learned to be vulnerable. For all the community I was posturing to support, I felt shame that I had put that community into jeopardy, and a sobriety check quite literally was what I needed to recalculate, reset, and reboot. We live in a world increasingly with nationalistic tendencies and tribalism. The us-them mentality is daunting and disturbing. Just watch the news on any given day. I was called into a relationship with the DUI community. I never imagined I would be a part of this community. I knew some friends that had a DUI, the loss of their driver's license and thousands upon thousands of dollars of legal fees, but not me. Wasn't going to happen to me until it did. My DUI intervention classes took place in my hometown. Group discussion and testimonies from participants were raw. I heard more heart-wrenching stories about grief and loss than one can imagine. I was forced by the weight of the community at the intervention class to face the truth. Then I saw someone I knew, and another person I knew, and so on. You cannot tell lies to people that know from the look on your face whether or not you're telling the truth. They've heard it all before. Hell, they've told those lies themselves. Part of the membership to this special community, gracious and welcoming, was to be vulnerable. Life is messy, and they all knew this. The credo was simple: take responsibility for your actions, learn from your mistakes, and be kind to others. My community service took place at Seeds of Literacy, where I graded papers for people wishing to learn English and helping others in some small way get their GEDs to improve the quality of their lives through gained knowledge and earning their degrees. We were all from different walks of life, where no one judged another, and strangers sought to better their lives. We shared stories to better know each other. I met several new and interesting people at Seeds, a far cry from the community of artists that I worked so diligently to support. There was a sales manager arrested for a DUI violation, 2 others convicted of various gun violations, and a fellow who we think was there on embezzlement. Sounds like Ocean 11, right? And myself. The 5 of us met regularly over the 3 months of the early spring weeks as mandated by the program. Others came to the program to use resources provided by Seeds, newcomers learning ESL skills, people coming from their day jobs to work on geography, math, history, and English. Volunteers included retired teachers and other young professionals who were coming from east and west suburbs, there to help with subjects in their particular areas of expertise. We were joyfully surprised by how we all supported each other and how they gave themselves unconditional support to me. I joined the group without hesitation. I participated in their quest of betterment, and in doing so, I found something of myself in them. The 5 of us had fallen from legal and moral grace. We were and are guilty of our crimes. We own that history of ourselves. No one made us do what we did, and the law tells us that we have to pay for it. Common sense tells us that we owe it to our community to live a morally respectful life within the confines of civil obedience. We owe it to our children and our parents, our friends and our colleagues, our loved ones, and even those in disagreement with our views. I didn't imagine that I could benefit from the Seeds community. That's because my arrogance got in the way of reason. Humility and vulnerability are not weaknesses, they're strengths. We must seek to attain those. Eventually, after seeing it as a legal requirement, I looked forward to meeting up with my colleagues at Seeds and volunteering to help others. I plan to continue. We belong to communities, no matter how small or large. How we participate in those communities controls the direction and outcome, the influence, the social gravitation of our cities and nation. Every voice matters. My beautiful daughter, Olivia, left for college yesterday. I'm really proud of her, and I miss her already. My other 2 children are outgrowing me. Soon they'll leave the nest. I wasn't unable to take her because I was sequestered on a 2-week jury trial, which wrapped up yesterday. Another form of community service. I got to know all the jurors through the process of voir dire, which is the vetting of the potential jurors to be fair, unbiased, and just. We bonded and exchanged stories of our lives. We've confessed our crimes and connected through a very tumultuous case where people will face penalties, shame, and guilt, and vulnerability as I did. We found the defendant late yesterday guilty on 14 counts, and he will probably be facing many years and potentially life in prison. I went to my mom's yesterday for dinner and sat with the elders at her table. Orville, who's 84, and Kurt, who's 92, a Korean vet and a retired engineer, an oil painter. I helped feed them mandarin oranges, wiped up after them, and conversed with them. And you know what? They really fed me. In all these cases, for whatever it's worth, my advice to you is to build communities with the lonely, the forgotten, the closeted, the unimpressive, the ones who never catch a break, the ones who are burnt out, constantly advocating for others. Be subsumed and surrounded by a group. Celebrate our diversity. Put your phones away when taking public transportation, riding in an elevator, or sitting in a waiting room, and really see and acknowledge those that enter into your space. Be the first to say hello. Let's get together. I love you. Be a force for good from something painful and that is hard to talk about. Listen to others and don't make it about yourself. Be willing to do something where there are no guarantees. Be willing to wait through the outcomes of a medical procedure, a relationship, a health scare, a death. Question these existential crises and let the unsuspecting communities help you. Show up, sign up, enlist, volunteer, and bring art, music, and dance, and that felt feeling into those relationships. It is precisely these kinds of intersections and social interventions that give life as art its teeth, that make it more than a visual escapade, a dilettantish indulgence, a disconnected concept, but instead something that can be transportive, emotional, or a means of well storage because of the myriad of perspectives that are involved. Finally, another beautiful gift and community moment that happened this summer was attending the 66-year-old David Byrne concert with my pals. The concert was inspiring and felt. He profiled in a minister's delivery the talents, the world culture blend of live music, the sensation of melodies, beats, and harmonies that people make together. His art moved me and got me dancing for its beauty, poignancy, and connectedness. Byrne said, there is a transcendent feeling in being subsumed and surrendering to a group. This applies to sports, military drills, group singing and dancing. That was all on display, and it was felt. We operate half awake or on autopilot, and end up whatever with a house and a family and a job and everything else. And we haven't really stopped to ask ourselves, how did I get here? Burns' entire concert was filled and thoughtful, provocative images of togetherness and relevancy. It's still making sense to me. Someone once told me that you only live once in a lifetime. Please get up and join me to dance.
Sing